Hi, hello, and welcome back to a podcast where I talk about the ins and outs of going from corporate drone to corporate dropout as a fitness and gamer in the industry. Jesus, as a fitness coach and gamer trying to build my business from the ground up. You know it, you love it. Welcome back to Chaos and Fuckery. And clearly my intro is Chaos and Fuckery today. I can't even say it. I don't know. Anyways, today is a fitness episode, and I have a particular topic that I am very oddly passionate about. I don't know why, but it irks me. And I think it's because in the fitness space, you kind of have two extremes of people, right? You have the people that are very body positive, very you could never want to lose weight. That's never a thing. You should never want to. You should love yourself at all sizes. And you have the sane people in the middle, right? That believe you should love yourself, but you should also, part of loving yourself is wanting to improve. And then you have the other people that think body positivity is disgusting and you should never love yourself in you should never love yourself in a bigger body. You should hate train your way into being a bodybuilder. You do see a lot of the two extremes and not so much the people in the middle. And I think that's why the term body neutrality has come out recently, because the neutrality aspect is be healthy, don't train for aesthetics, which cool, awesome. I like that. At one point in my kind of fitness, and I will admit I was in a bigger body when I supported this. I did support body positivity. I support the concept, right? I support of not shame spiraling your way into a fitness journey, because shame doesn't work. For the majority, shame doesn't work. And I support, treating yourself with respect no matter what size you're in. And that is the part of body positivity that, as a fitness coach, as a person who has gone through my own transformations multiple times over and currently in another one, I do support loving yourself in different phases, because the journey is hard if you constantly hate on yourself, and body dysmorphia and everything else that comes with some of these things is hard. However, what I don't support is kind of what body positivity has become, and that's overweight people with entitlement. And this can go in so many different business, because I'd like to just clear the air and say that being overweight is not a disability. I'm sorry, it's not. It is not something businesses have to accommodate you for. It is not an ADA thing that businesses have to be consciously aware of, if you will. Don't think industries like flying or theme parks or I don't know, are there other industries that would need to change as, society is getting fatter? I don't know. But those are two that come to mind, because there's a lot of stories recently related to these two things of overweight people having a sense of entitlement that they are owed some sort of accommodation from these businesses because they're overweight. And as someone who is not in my smallest body, but not in my biggest body either, and has had fear of, getting back on a plane and being too big to sit next to someone that they're going to give me dirty looks, or going to a theme park and potentially not fitting on a ride I really wanted to ride. I've been in those situations. I am not currently in those situations, I don't think. We'll see how my flight this week goes, but I don't feel so overweight that I am a problem. But I don't also, I would never blame an airline or a company for my weight problems. If an airline told me, hey, we're going to need you to purchase a second seat, I would do it, no questions asked, because it is not their job is to accommodate all of their guests, to help all of their guests. And if having me as a bigger person, if you will, in a seat that I spill over into, if you will, and have me purchase that second seat so that no one else has to suffer at my expense, I think that's completely within their reason. There is no reason airlines should be giving away free seats to overweight people. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be allowed to fly, but take your own accountability. If you are, even people with service dogs, right? If they have a bigger service dog, a lot of people will buy a second seat so that their service dog is comfortable. That's not a forced thing, but they do it out of respect to their animal. And yet people in the body positive movement can't even see that, buying a second seat is doing it out of some level of respect to the people in the airplane with you. And this topic came to mind to me because I'm a personal trainer in the fitness space. I'm a personal trainer that's lived in a bigger body and currently is not exactly where I want to be. I am not severely obese by any stretch of the imagination, but I am not, tone and fit like most personal trainers out there. And this topic came to mind because of people complaining about Universal Studios being fat phobic. This has been a topic of conversation for a very long time when you compare Universal to Disney. But as an engineer, the number one thing is trying to compare those two parks from a safety regulations concern is not the same. Disney does not have the level of thrill ride that Universal does. Comparing something like Cosmic Rewind at Walt Disney World Epcot to Velocicoaster at Islands of Adventure here in Orlando is not even in the same game when it comes to the safety requirements for each ride. But even if they were in the same game and Disney was able to create a bigger seat, if you will, then they're exact same ride and one has a bigger seat that's more accommodating than the other, it doesn't matter. Literally does not matter because no business owes you something for being overweight. And yes, you can make the argument that making bigger seats or whatever helps people who are actually disabled get on these rides. But also with that, I lean back at the safety. Thrill requires a higher level of safety constraints, and that is unfortunate for people who might be super tall or people who might have a missing limb but at the end of the day, theme parks are a luxury. They are not a right. The theme parks can do everything within their power to abide by ADA rules. That does not mean they're going to be able to do everything and let you on everything. And that's unfortunate for actually disabled people. But being overweight is not a disability. It's just not. And the fact that people are out here screaming about how Universal is fat phobic, no bitch. Universal is not fat phobic. They created fun, thrilling rides, and you are choosing to go knowing that the body restraints are out there openly in the public and not do anything about it to get on the rides if you really want to. That is something within your control. And obviously, right, you could put in the work and still not fit because of your body size. But again, at that point, I still lean on safety constraints. That is not Universal's fault. That's not Universal being openly fat phobic. It's just not. And we can talk about the accessibility issues, the real accessibility issues at the theme parks, specifically with Epic Universe and the mass amounts of stairs everywhere. And yes, there are alternate routes for all of these stair situations. However, from my understanding from people who've had to experience it, adds an extra 40 minutes to your day if you do need to utilize those accommodations. And that, I would say, is probably a problem Universal should have done a little bit more effort to address. Can you get rid of the stairs? Probably not, but you could also make it so that there's more entrances for people that need to utilize those services. Those people are not overweight people. I'm sorry. Those people are, wheelchair bound, missing limbs, whatever. ADA covered disabilities. They're not overweight people. Overweight people do not get a right to the elevators. Overweight people do not get a right to not use the stairs around a theme park. In my personal opinion, and this might sound extremely harsh, especially as a personal trainer and fitness coach, overweight people do not get a right to use electrically controlled vehicles at theme parks. I don't think they should be allowed to, personally. I think Disney and Universal should ban them unless they're absolutely necessary. If you want to be in a wheelchair all day because you can't walk the park, either make your family push it or you push it yourself. If you can't walk the park and you choose to go and you're not physically disabled or have obviously with POTS and things like that, it's a whole different story. I'm not judging people because if I see you running around on an ECV, it's pretty obvious who the people I'm talking about are. Because I understand hidden disabilities, and I'm not gonna, bitch at someone for parking in a disabled spot. right? Because hidden disabilities like POTS, and I can't think of another one that's like really obvious or really, really obviously hidden. Anyways, point being, you don't have a right. No one has a right to be accommodated at a theme park for their weight. Theme parks could make an entire thing based on being skinny, and it still wouldn't be their fault. And I firmly stand by this. I've been in a position where I was nervous I might not fit. If I had been taken off that ride because I did not fit, I would have agreed to get off and I would have gone home and trained harder. That is reality. Would my training solve my, genetic shape in the case of something like Tron, where it's just a funky restraint to begin with? No, but it would have, potentially redistributed some of my weight so that I could fit. Obviously, in cases of rides where there is a height limit, an upper height limit on top of the lower height limit, there's really nothing anyone can do about that. It's unfortunate that they made a ride that has those things, but I feel like even tall people understand that is it's a safety thing, right? And I don't understand why we're treating, size constraints on rides any different than height constraints. Why are people allowed to be up in arms and call theme parks fat phobic for having rides that have size constraints, but height restraints are completely okay? And the reality is height restraints are also being challenged by parents who are entitled and need to get their kids on the ride for whatever reason. They are breaking safety rules, and I pray to whatever deity you believe in that your kid doesn't end up getting the shitty end of the stick in that situation because you decided you had to put your kid on the ride. The entitlement of people is absolutely absurd, but the entitlement of overweight people when it comes to theme parks and flying and situations in which they are causing other people discomfort. And I'm not saying being overweight is bad, because I know this is going to get clipped and people are going to be like, oh my God, this trainer is, fat phobic. That is not what I'm saying. You should be allowed to exist, but also live in fucking reality, people. Being overweight is not a bad thing. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't want to work on it either. Being overweight is not a bad thing, but that doesn't entitle you to special treatment. Being overweight is not a bad thing, but it's not a business's fault if you are excluded from something for being overweight, or that they require something of you. To me, it is worse than insurances not covering pre-existing conditions. Because at least with most pre-existing conditions, you couldn't have done anything about that. Yes, for some people, losing weight is difficult. And it is a journey. And it is not easy. And it might require a lot of trial and error. I am not saying it's an easy fucking journey, because it's not. I have had so many missteps since I started this business. And I mean, honestly, for me, this is, massive weight loss round 2 or 3, I think. Because the first time I had to do it, I did it with a raging eating disorder. And that's not good. The second time I did it, well, I did it because I was training for a sport. And again, probably not the healthiest way of going about doing it. I'm doing it again, and I'm trying to do it the right way. And it's not always fucking easy. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. And that also doesn't mean that I am entitled to anything in the world because I'm overweight. I'm not entitled to bigger seats. I'm not entitled to, have a whole row to myself without paying for it if I want that comfort. I'm not entitled to thrill rides at a theme park. There is zero entitlement in being overweight. There is zero accommodations necessary for overweight people. Do the work or don't. That's up to you. But don't blame other people and don't blame other businesses for not accommodating you. It is no one to assist you, if you will. It's your responsibility at the end of the day. No one else is to blame, other than maybe with childhood obesity, because at that point, children don't really have control over what they're eating in their own homes. Let's be real. That's on the parents. But if you are a fully grown adult, it is nobody else's fault, nobody else's responsibility, but your own. Yes, there are, things in the world that can, make it more difficult. The price of food, the price of healthy food is absurd right now. And I understand why people are struggling. I do. But again, that still doesn't take the responsibility off of you. You are not a victim in this situation as an overweight person. And I say that literally as someone who is actively in a weight loss phase. It is not, and I'm not saying that you should, be banned from these places. I'm saying understand that it is not the business's fault. It does not make them fat phobic for not accommodating you. Just like not agreeing with all things that a LGBTQ individual may say doesn't make a person transphobic or homophobic. It is ridiculous to think that being overweight is any form of entitlement. And I'm not saying bring shame back. I'm saying you know your own body. The constraints are openly out there. We know the size of an airplane seat. We know the size of these ride vehicles. Don't claim a theme park shamed you and walked you out of the park for being fat. Like, that's not what happened. And an airline requesting you to buy a second seat, again, is not shame and, being fat phobic. It's just not. It's them trying to make everybody as comfortable as possible. And you, as the individual, should have done it in the first place, out of respect for other people. It's the same argument, with like child-free people. You are entitled to a child-free life, not a child-free world. The only time I get frustrated as a child-free person when I'm in public that kids exist is when I'm in a place that kids really shouldn't be. If I'm at a bar and there's toddlers running around, then yeah, I get a little frustrated. If I'm at, an adult event at a theme park, then yeah, I get a little frustrated when people bring strollers. So yeah, that's kind of my rant, if you will. No business is entitled to accommodate you for being overweight. None. Zero businesses, except for maybe a doctor's office. And even then, right, I understand that, doctors shouldn't be just assuming all of your problems are related to your weight. That's rude, and that's just, you probably do have real problems that you're there for that have nothing to do with your weight. That is fat judgment. That is true blue, like, if you came in for flu symptoms, assuming it has to do with your weight is ridiculous. They need to be listening to these people. You deserve to be heard as an overweight person by, medical professionals and that kind of world. You do not deserve to be put on a pedestal and accommodated to in every which direction by the rest of society. Fit is not a body size. Fit can be many things. But again, just because you're fit doesn't make the world go round. Yeah, you can be throwing weight around in the gym and be in a bigger body. Fine. That's okay. And if you're healthy, you're healthy. I don't care. That's on you to, look internally. And some people just naturally live in bigger bodies. That is okay. That doesn't mean the business has to accommodate you. Some people just have wide shoulders and they could be the fittest people on the planet. Look at most football players. They could be a fucking celebrity and not fit on this ride. It has nothing to do with weight. Let's be real. They don't have to be accommodating to you. These thrill rides have safety constraints for a reason. Are they a little bit overdone for, the theme parks at Universal? Maybe. But I fear that people are going to claim that Universal is just fat phobic. But the thing is Epic Universe, their newest park, made a lot of adjustments to make some of their more constraining rides at the other two parks a little bit more available. They even made adjustments to things like locker systems to make it easier for people to carry shit around all day. That's a very silly one, but you know what I mean, right? They made a little bit more, it's a little bit more lenient even on similar ride vehicles to rides that they have at the other parks. That is more adjustment than I think they should have given, especially with the entitlement of people running around on the internet screaming that they are fat phobic. Whatever the constraints are, you have no right No one, like, just because you paid for a ticket does not make you the queen bee of the park, if you will, or the airline, right? If you paid for one ticket, that doesn't mean you get to ruin everybody else's experience. And a lot of these people that scream all day, every day about how the parks are fat phobic, or how airlines are fat phobic, or how public transit is fat phobic, not only is putting a nasty taste in people's mouths, leaning towards, body shaming and basically shaming overweight people out of the spaces that they want to be in. Again, it also creates a sense of entitlement that is not earned. You have not earned the right to be present in these conversations, and that is okay. Businesses are private businesses. I don't care if they're public, facing, right? They're dealing with the public, if you will. They're still a private business. They still have the right to do whatever the hell they want. And I don't know, maybe it's just, being one of those people that live in a bigger body right now, and I'm actively trying not to be. I think those that do, live in that bigger body and make a big deal out of airlines or theme parks or whatever, are simply requesting that, hey, can you do this to make everybody else's experience slightly more enjoyable, when they're screaming about that because they're the one that got singled out. Well, sorry. What did you expect? And it's just hard to watch. So many people think they're entitled to all of these things, and they're just not. Also, the kind of push that being overweight is a disability that needs to be accommodated. It's not. Yeah, half the US population and then some is overweight. But that doesn't make it a disability. That just means we're fucking lazy or have chronic health issues that are causing us all to gain a mass amount of weight. But a lot of it is fucking laziness. And a lot of it's the way our society is structured. Because I don't want to be chained to this desk all day, every day. But I am. I do everything in my power to try and get up, go touch grass, walk while I work, to try and help losing weight, on top of, my nutrition that I'm very dialed into. I will do everything in my power to be in a healthy body, whatever healthy is for me. And, I know a lot of people that still are in bigger bodies despite the fact that, like, they do everything to be healthy, and that's okay. That is okay to be in that bigger body. I'm not saying it's not. But you also shouldn't be expecting things from the world just because you live in a bigger body. What is comfortable to you may not be comfortable to everybody else. And that's okay. You as the individual have to be okay with that. You have to live with that. Or you make changes. It really is that simple. And I live in the centrist mindset of the fitness space of, I don't hate fat people, but I hate some of the entitlement of some of these overweight people. I don't hate body positivity. I hate what it's become. And I also think sometimes, we need to live in reality. 50% of the US population is overweight. And it's not because of food dyes and artificial sweeteners. There is something more sinister at play here. And, I can't say I'm against, cleaning things up, but cleaning things up don't do anything if nobody can afford it. Like, I live in that reality as well. But even with that being grounded in that reality, that I understand that it is hard for people. I do. I'm still not going to give people an excuse to act like they're entitled and that the world needs to adapt to people being overweight, because that's not reality. We need to work on ourselves, and we need to get our own shit together as a country, as an individual, and I'm not saying be like stick skinny. I'm saying, live in a body that is comfortable, but don't force other people to think that is acceptable. And I'm not saying acceptable per like societal standards. I am saying per health standards. If you're healthy and your doctor agrees you're healthy, great. If your doctor sees no future concerns too, because you can be healthy right this moment and, be fine. But that doesn't mean there's no future concerns. Because even with things like football players, right? They are bigger, beefier human beings, and they are considered athletes, even though they live in bigger bodies. But most of those big old linebackers, because size matters to their sport, when they come out of that sport, they are encouraged to start leaning down because of the pain, because of the health concerns that come with, continuing to have that size. Even bodybuilders who get too big are encouraged to, come down every now and again and lean down, or not bodybuilders, powerlifters more often than not are encouraged to kind of lean back down and go through a leaning phase just because it can get to a point of being unhealthy even when you're muscly. So it's not about being fat or being in a bigger body. It's about entitlement. Who live the body positivity mindset, live an entitlement mindset, and I'm not for that. I don't think that businesses should accommodate you just because you live in a bigger body. You should accommodate yourself. And to some extent, I say that too, for me personally, obviously, a lot of these things are ADA covered and businesses do have a responsibility to those things. But for me, I would rather self-accommodate things like my ADHD or self-accommodate my suspected autism, because I am not formally tested. I'm, self-diagnosed, if you will, which is a whole different can of worms, but I suspect it and I do things specifically to accommodate myself. If you're not willing to accommodate yourself or do the work for yourself to have a better experience for you, then you don't even get a seat at the table to talk about other people's experiences, truthfully. But yeah, I don't know. This episode is probably going to be a little bit, controversial to people who live the body positive life. And I don't care. I want to be loving and accepting of all types of people and help people as a fitness coach that want to improve themselves. I don't want to force people. I'm not ever going to scream at you and shame you because you're overweight. But I am also going to fact check people or check them into reality when they think they have a sense of entitlement because they're overweight. I will never, shame you for the number on the scale, but I will tell you, hey, if you do nothing about this, it might be an issue. I think there's a difference between loving yourself and delusion. And some people live in full-on delusion and never want to work on themselves and improve themselves. And I believe those are the types that have kind of taken over body positive movement. And yeah, that's where I stand. This episode is definitely going to be a little controversial. I'm okay with that, because I, as a human, am a little controversial. And I believe that reality wins in all senses. We can't live in a delusional world where we ignore the real facts on things. And I also believe in minding your own damn business. So there's that. Yeah. Cool. But I appreciate y'all for hanging out with me on this one and any future really controversial episodes. I am trying to find my voice. And I think that was the main purpose of this podcast, is to find my voice, find me, find the space to not feel afraid to voice controversial opinions. Because at the end of the day, saying you are anti or pro body positivity can be a career ender in some cases with fitness. Either you are the V-Shred types, Greg Duquette types, or you're the, Coach Adam from TikTok and Liam and, former fat guy style. And I would like to believe that I'm a kind of a blend of both, I do believe that sometimes extreme approaches are the way to kind of kickstart something. I do believe that, fat people have a right to just exist in the world, or overweight people have a right to exist in the world, but they don't have a right to be accommodated to simply for being overweight. I believe that loving and caring for yourself also involves improving and wanting to change. I believe that anyone at any point in time has a workout for them, even if it's sitting in a chair. You can do something to be active. Don't believe in the entitlement of fit or fat people. Neither deserves any special treatment in the world. And finding that voice in the fitness space, in the gaming space, in the business space, in the me space has been a difficult journey, because I feel a lot of who I am has been squashed by the fear of haters, has been squashed by, the fear of being weird. And I went to see Lilo and Stitch recently, and the new live action movie. And one of the things I used to relate to Lilo and Stitch as a character when I was a kid is being that weird kid and the outcast and the kid that didn't really understand social norms and did weird things and made everyone kind of look side-eye at you. And that hurt me a lot as a kid, but now as an adult, I'm realizing it's okay to be weird. And I embrace it. And I embrace my love of Stitch and weird characters, because those are the characters I related to. So I will probably piss a lot of people off on this journey, and I'm okay with that. I am okay with that because I will find my people and my clients in the process of doing that when I am fully openly me. You are going nowhere if you don't have a leg to stand on. If you don't have opinions on things and everything is just a neutral centrist vibe, you really don't get anywhere with people. They want to know where you stand. And the reality is I stand in some weird fucking places, but it's okay. So that is my chaos and fuckery for the day. Let me know in the comments below what your chaos and fuckery or what you think about, this topic. Should airlines provide extra seats to overweight people, or am I in the right saying that, those overweight people should pay for the seats? Should theme parks be making more accommodating rides, or am I in the right in saying they have the right to make whatever they want, whatever constraints they want? It is not their fault if they're not accommodating you. I don't know. I'm interested to see what other people's opinions are in the comments below, but that is all for today. So I thank you for being here to talk about this chaos and all of the fuckery that comes with it.